Welcome to our take two of distributing the offer. We appreciate everybody coming back, staying engaged and interested and wanting to hear all the things about distribution because Tuesdays had some technical difficulties. So thank you so much for joining us today. All right, we got about 30 people. All right, David, Shelley, should we go ahead and get started?
Absolutely ready, Kathy, when you are.
Okay, well, let's go ahead. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to today's session in our Modern Airline Retailing webinar series, Distribute the Offer, Powering Smarter Airline Retailing through Modern Distribution. I'm Kathy Schoen, Director of Marketing Strategy at ATPCO, and I will be your host for today. So whether this is your first time joining us, or if you've been following along with our series, you are in the right place if you are interested in learning about the future of airline retailing, about how to deliver the right offer to the right customer at the right time, because that's the promise of modern retailing, and it is what this series is all about. This is the third webinar in our series. If you have not read any of the previous blogs that we posted or watched the previous webinars, that's okay. We will go ahead and put a link to our landing page that has all of our previous webinars and blogs posted, so you can go back and reference them when you have time. But a quick recap from our last session. Last time we explored what it means to create a smart offer, one that's dynamic, one that's personalized, one that is strategically priced. And we introduced you to Air Awesome. Air Awesome was our fictional airline that we used to help tell the story, to talk about real challenges that many airlines like you and in the industry face, such as outdated workflows, lack of automation, and just that pressure to move faster. So for today, we are going to continue on that story of Air Awesome, and we're going to move into the next phase of the offer and order lifecycle, distribution. Because no matter how great your offer is, if it doesn't make it into the hands of the customer that you want to reach, it doesn't matter. Distribution is where pricing meets performance and where the intent becomes a reality. And that's why today's topic is so important. I am excited to have with me here today David Smith and Shelley Runyon from our Distribute the Offer team. David, Shelley, I'm so happy to have you with me here. How are you feeling? Are you ready to talk distribution?
Super exciting. So happy
Very
some people came
excited.
back. Really great. Thank you, Kathy.
Awesome. Okay. So before I hand this over to you guys to tell that Air Awesome distribution story, I want to let everybody know on the call that this webinar is being recorded, and we will send out a link afterwards to everyone who registered so you can watch the recording. And then also we want to encourage questions. For the next 45 minutes, we're with you here, and we're going to be talking about distribution. And as David and Shelley are talking, you may have some questions that come up. So we encourage you to please put them in the Teams Q&A section here in the webinar. So not the chat section, but the Q&A section. So that way at the end, we'll be able to address those live. If we do run out of time, it's okay. We will follow up with you afterwards by email. So David, why don't you start us off and explain a bit more about offer distribution?
Certainly, and thanks, Kathy. And to add my welcome back, everybody. So today we are diving into the second phase of the offer and order lifecycle. As Kathy mentioned, that's distribution. And that's the process by which an airline's offer with all its relevant components is transmitted to flight shoppers so they can view, compare, understand, and purchase. As Kathy also mentioned, we're bringing back Air Awesome to help us unpack this next critical phase, getting offers to the market. And we're going to be doing it by focusing on a key mindset shift, and that's thinking of distribution not as a handoff, but as a high leverage retailing function. But what does that mean exactly? Well, let's start with this. distribution isn't just about putting offers out into the world. It's about delivering the right content to the right customer through the right channel at the right time. And when all those things are done right, it becomes a competitive advantage. That's why distribution strategy hinges on three essential pillars. Channel strategy, that's deciding where and how an airline's offers are sold. Payment strategy, managing the costs and preferences around how customers pay. And control of the offer, often powered by new distribution capability or NDC, where the airline maintains ownership of its offers across all sales channels using modern connectivity. So at ATPCO, we define airline distribution sophistication as a blend of those three capabilities. And what's really exciting is that these aren't just abstract ideas. We enable that sophistication through practical tools that you can use today, enhancements we've recently delivered, and innovations that are coming soon. We will also discuss a fourth pillar, and that is universal connectivity. This is ATPCO's network model. That's our own data distribution to round off the conversation and bring it all back to interoperability between all business partners in our industry, all better together. So let's revisit Air Awesome. This mid-size airline didn't try to overhaul their entire technology stack overnight. Instead, they made targeted changes. They tightened control over where their content appears. They rethought their payment configurations, and they leaned into direct connections using NDC. The results, tangible improvements, consistency, reach, and retail performance. As we follow their journey today, we'll explore how each pillar comes into play. We'll show you how the channel and payment strategies can be customized for efficiency and growth. And we'll look at how offer control through NDC unlocks personalization, even in indirect channels. So as we go forward, do think about your own distribution model. Where are you gaining traction? Where do you need more control? And how could a more sophisticated approach unlock more value for your airline? So let's get started. Kathy, I'm going to hand over to you for our first poll of the day.
Okay, thanks. All right, so we want to hear from you guys who joined us. Go to slido.com and hashtag ATPCO, and you should see this question where you can submit your answer, or if you have your phones out, go ahead and scan the QR code. That'll bring you directly there, or I believe we'll put the chat to Slido directly in the chat here, or we'll put a link to the chat in the chat. So go to slido.com and let's hear what's holding you back from distributing more airline controlled offers. Is it lack of partner readiness? Complexity of integration? Internal alignment or prioritization? Unclear business case? Or the tools and standards aren't flexible enough? Out of those 5 options, which one would you say is holding you back from distributing more airline controlled offers? I'm going to go ahead and pull the results up. All right, responses are coming in.
Very interesting to see, Kathy, that we've got internal alignment or prioritization. That's sort of crucial, getting all departments within an airline, within the organization on the same page. Interesting to see that one at the top there. Tools and standards not flexible enough. We know the criticality of standards. We have the IATA procedural standards. ATPCO also has processing standards that allow that data to flow through the life cycle. Interesting to see those two. Also interesting, what's not scoring highly, lack of partner readiness, that actually partners that want to participate together are ready. It's just there are other blockers in the way.
Yeah, very interesting that hasn't gotten any votes. So 18, 19 votes coming in. All right, I think this is gives us a good idea of where everyone is feeling held back on from distributing more of their offers. Let's go back to the presentation. Okay, so let's return to Air Awesome and see how they are transforming each part of their distribution equation, starting with channel strategy. So David, back to you.
Of course, thank you, Kathy. So thank you all as well for your engagement in the poll. They're really great data points for us to get and see where we can help the most with this journey for everyone. Do stay at the ready because we have one more poll, so don't leave Slido just yet. And there will be time for questions at the end of this session. So let's get back to Air Awesome. They faced a challenge that's all too familiar. They needed to get the right product in front of the right customer, but frankly, the tools they had simply weren't up to the task. Every seller, every region, every market, they all received the same version of the offer. It was uniform, it was undifferentiated, and ultimately it was inefficient. But what was worse, it capped their revenue potential. They couldn't align their most premium content with their most valuable distribution partners, nor could they steer customers towards channels that better supported their commercial goals. So they rethought their channel strategy entirely. They started out by asking, what can we do with what we already have? And that led them to sales restrictions, known as Rule Category 15. That's a powerful tool that was already at their disposal through ATPCO. Now, by configuring Category 15, Air Awesome was able to target offers based on specific seller credentials, things like global distribution system code, pseudo city code, IATA agency number, or office identifier. Suddenly now they could tailor their content based on region, distribution partner, or market type. One online travel agency might see a high-end bundle with visuals and ancillaries. Another that was focused on budget-conscious travelers might only get visibility into an economy light option. Importantly, this wasn't about excluding partners, it was about alignment, making sure each channel was getting content that matched its audience, its role, and its business value. Next, they layered on channel-based pricing differentiation, and to do that, they used carrier-imposed fees and ticketing fees. Now, thanks to a critical update from ATPCO in 2024, these fees could now be calculated at the time of consumer shopping rather than at the time of order fulfillment. This meant that Air Awesome could now reflect true channel costs and value up front, right in the shopping flow. By applying differentiated fees to specific global distribution system platforms or IATA numbers, Air Awesome began to influence outcomes. Their preferred partners, especially those connected through NDC or aligned with their broader commercial strategy, could be priced more favorably. Other channels, those with higher costs or less strategic value, might reflect a slightly higher total cost to the traveler. The result? They were no longer passively participating in distribution. They were shaping it by prioritizing partners that supported their goals, managing channel costs transparently and responsibly, and maintaining brand consistency and pricing integrity across every platform. To complete the picture, Air Awesome turned to security tables, both for their ancillaries and fees, and for their fares and rules. This gave them direct control over who could access what content. It wasn't just about targeting anymore, it was about safeguarding, ensuring their offers were visible to the right eyes under the right conditions with the right commercial context. Together, all of these tools allowed Air Awesome to regain control, not just of the offer content, but of how and where it appeared, how it was valued, and who had access to it. Today, they're continuing to evolve. With ATPCO's enhanced distribution capabilities, they're moving towards even finer targeting, exploring how to dynamically match product and price with shopper context, channel performance, and strategic priorities. So now their channel strategy is taking shape, and Air Awesome turns to the next piece of the distribution puzzle. That's payment strategy. So I'll turn to my colleague Shelley. Can you walk us through how Air Awesome tackled that?
Thanks, David, and I'd be happy to. Let's shift to a part of retailing that's often less visible to travelers, but incredibly impactful to the airline's bottom line, payment strategy. For Air Awesome, payment costs had quietly become a major concern. On the surface, they were selling tickets and seeing revenue come in. But when they dug deeper, they found escalating expenses behind the scenes. Credit card transaction fees were rising. In some regions, payment processing carried added costs tied to local infrastructure. And on top of that, fraud exposure and chargebacks were cutting into margins. The real issue? They had no levers to control any of it. Their existing systems treated all payment methods equally, meaning high-cost credit cards and low-cost bank transfers were priced the same. Customers had no incentive to choose the more efficient option, and Air Awesome had no way to nudge behavior. That's where a smarter payment strategy came in and where ATPCO's tools made the difference. They began using ticketing fees and offer owner fees, each applied strategically based on payment method. With ticketing fees, Air Awesome tackled the core challenge: how to offset the real cost of expensive payment types. They implemented differentiated fees tied directly to specific forms of payment. For example, transactions involving premium credit cards might include a modest surcharge, while low-cost options like bank transfers or direct debit remained fee-free. These fees weren't applied universally. They were targeted by both payment method and sales channel. That meant Air Awesome could align cost recovery with where the expense was actually being incurred. Additionally, they utilized ticketing fees to influence customer choice more proactively. In certain regions, they spotlighted local digital wallets or alternative payment platforms by offering a lower total price when those methods were selected. The difference was subtle, but it worked. Shoppers began opting for the more efficient choices, and over time, Air Awesome saw a tangible reduction in processing costs and a drop in chargebacks. They also used offer owner fees in more sophisticated scenarios, embedding differentiated payment handling into custom fare structures or private deals. This gave them even greater precision, especially in corporate or agency-driven transactions. But the most impactful part, these payment differentiators weren't tacked on after the fact. They were embedded directly into the offer itself. When a traveler shopped for a fare, whether on Air Awesome's site, through an OTA, or via an NDC partner, the full pricing, including payment-related fees, was calculated and displayed in real time. This meant travelers saw the true price up front, and Air Awesome preserved margin without hiding costs or complicating the shopping flow. The result? Payment strategy became an integrated part of Air Awesome's retail engine. No longer an isolated finance task, it now lived where it mattered most, at the point of sale, embedded in the offer, and aligned with commercial strategy. And importantly, all of this works seamlessly, whether in traditional GDS environments or modern NDC-connected APIs. Air Awesome didn't need to choose between legacy and modern. They simply aligned both with smarter retailing. Now, I'm going to turn you back over to my colleague, David. Let's continue with how these steps positioned Air Awesome to scale their control even further through NDC.
Excellent. Thanks, Shelley. So new distribution capability, or NDC, is often misunderstood as just a technical standard. But for airlines like Air Awesome, it's much more than that. It's a core part of their retailing strategy. So at its heart, NDC empowers airlines to distribute offers with greater consistency, control, and personalization, no matter where or how a customer chooses to shop. And for Air Awesome, that shift represented a major opportunity, but also a significant challenge. Interestingly, Air Awesome had dipped their toes into this model before, back in the 1990s, when they experimented with direct connect. They allowed travel agencies to access their offer creation systems directly, but at the time, the technology just wasn't mature enough. The economics didn't support it, the market wasn't ready. Frankly, it was ahead of its time. But today, all three of those factors have changed. Technology has advanced. APIs and real-time connectivity are now reliable and scalable. Economics have shifted. Distribution costs and partner dynamics now reward direct control. And consumer behavior has evolved. Shoppers expect personalized, transparent offers that feel consistent across platforms. But even with those changes, the road to full NDC adoption still requires solving some persistent problems: content quality gaps, tooling limitations, and partner readiness. That's where ATPCO stepped in to help Air Awesome to bridge those gaps, using both existing tools and new innovations. They began by extending the same capabilities they had used in channel and payment strategy. Again, that's sales restrictions, or Rule Category 15, to manage who could see which offers. Carrier-imposed fees to reflect distribution costs or overhead when offers originated outside of their own systems, and offer owner fees to fine-tune pricing based on partner type or transaction channel. These were familiar tools, but now Air Awesome used them as the foundation of an NDC-driven approach. So next came enhanced distribution. That's a capability that allowed them to designate certain fare content for NDC delivery only. This meant that preferred partners, those connected through their NDC API, received differentiated content unavailable in the traditional channels. This exclusivity became a value proposition, encouraging more partners to adopt NDC connections and aligning incentives across the ecosystem. And Air Awesome didn't stop there. They knew that visual content matters just as much as pricing. So they leaned into route-happy visuals and attributes, integrating rich product descriptions, images, benefits, and disclosures into both direct and indirect channels. This was key to achieving content parity, ensuring that customers browsing on a third-party site receive the same branded experience they'd get on Air Awesome's own channels. To fine-tune control even further, they implemented aggregator match, and that allowed them to target specific NDC aggregators, tailoring content and conditions based on aggregator capabilities and commercial value. But behind the scenes, importantly, they played an active role in shaping the future. By participating in ATPCO's NDC Solutions design team, Air Awesome helped define and validate new capabilities like seller markup within negotiated fares, or Rule Category 35, and the inclusion of simplified rules and merchandising attributes directly into the NDC schema. This was more for them than a tactical implementation, it was strategic involvement. Air Awesome wasn't just adopting modern distribution, they were helping to build it. The results they saw were clear. It was a distribution network where content quality remained consistently high, regardless of the channel. Direct and indirect sales channels that delivered unified messaging, pricing, and value, and, crucially, a dramatic increase in distribution control, ensuring that Air Awesome could guide where their offers went, how they appeared, and how they performed. So what started as an isolated experiment in the 1990s had become at last a retailing strategy that delivered. So I'll turn it back over to Shelley. Can you tell us more about how Air Awesome used ATPCO's well-known connectivity model, its industry-wide network, to round out that sophisticated end-to-end distribution approach?
Sure, David. Again, be happy to. Now let's talk about something that's invisible to most shoppers, but absolutely critical to modern retailing success: universal connectivity. For Air Awesome, distributing offers wasn't a simple task of publishing fares. It was a multi-channel challenge, one that required delivering the right offer across a diverse and fragmented retail landscape. They needed to reach customers in 4 key types of environments: their own direct channels, including their website, mobile app, and call center; corporate travel platforms, where contracts and negotiated fares drive decisions; third-party aggregators and online travel agencies, or OTAs, which provide reach but add complexity; and travel management companies, or TMCs, using traditional GDS pathways. Each of these touchpoints came with its own set of technical constraints, consumer behaviors, and commercial agreements. Some expected real-time API integration, others depended on legacy schemas. Some needed visual merchandising, while others prioritized pricing precision and fare consistency. The challenge was clear. How do you ensure the intended offer, the exact price, product, visuals, and value appears correctly and consistently in all of them? That's where ATPCO's connectivity infrastructure became indispensable. Air Awesome turned to 2 key enablers. First, they utilized hourly product and price distribution, which allowed them to push competitive updates into the market with speed and confidence. When market conditions shifted or a competitor made a move, Air Awesome could react fast, knowing their updates would propagate across all sales channels on time. Speed to market became a differentiator, not a bottleneck. Secondly, comprehensive standards meant every fare type, public and private, constructed and directional, flowed automatically through ATPCO's global distribution backbone, with aligned application to ensure that Air Awesome's individual intent was understood and met. The data was transformed, translated, and routed to match the technical requirements of each recipient system, preserving fidelity along the way. But here's what made it powerful. It wasn't just about data flowing out, it was about retail intent being preserved. That's what created true interoperability across old and new platforms, across bilateral interline agreements, across direct APIs and legacy EDIFACT systems. Air Awesome's offers showed up the way they were designed, No broken logic, no stripped visuals, no misrepresented value. And the integrity produced real measurable outcomes. There were fewer misfiled or misinterpreted fares, which meant less confusion in the market. Second, more accurate total pricing meant fewer surprises for customers and fewer abandoned bookings. And third, this also meant lower risk of lost conversions due to mismatches between channels. In short, Air Awesome achieved retailing integrity, which is the ability to control how their brand and offers appear whenever customers engage. This level of trust, where a shopper sees the same product, the same message, the same price on every touch point, is foundational to modern airline commerce. It's what builds confidence, drives conversion, and strengthens loyalty. And for Air Awesome, it wasn't just a technical upgrade, it was a strategic transformation. Because when customers trust what they see, they're far more likely to buy. I think I'm going to hand this back over to my colleague Kathy for our second and last poll for today.
Thank you, Shelley. Okay, let's ask the audience a question. If you could solve one distribution challenge this quarter, what would it be? You can go to slido.com, hashtag ATPCO. Hopefully you guys still have it open from the previous question, but this isn't a multiple choice. This is an open text word cloud that we want to hear from you guys. If you could solve one distribution challenge this quarter, what would it be? Would it be maybe something around servicing, perhaps integration, maybe the standards and how they're implemented? I'm going to open it up and see what we have here. Okay.
I do love seeing the hashtag ATPCO at the top. That might have been a mistake, but we love to be part of the part of solving things. It's good to see. So do think about our framing, channel, payment, and control of the offer. Great to see some of these. These are very real problems that you're seeing. This is another benefit of ATPCO's network, of course, that we can all share, and we are better together because we can see and empathize with the issues that we have. So we see tech readiness, internal prioritization is coming up again, revenue accounting, the world I came from originally 30 years ago, NDC standards with gaps, lack of long-term vision. Let's see, I haven't seen servicing come up yet. Servicing, there we have too many gaps still with servicing. Yeah. One that we certainly hear from the NDC side of things, that selling an offer, a lot of the issues are fixed, but servicing that offer with parity it can be difficult to do. Delayed, some great words there. Thank you again for engagement.
Okay. Okay, so David, I'm going to turn it back over to you to close us up with a few takeaways.
Sure thing. Thanks, Kathy. And thanks again, everyone, for contributing. It is great to have that data point of what you're thinking, something you'd love to solve quickly is. So let's bring it all together from today. Air Awesome's journey through offer distribution highlights a core truth we've seen across the industry, and that's that modern and sophisticated distribution requires new thinking, but not necessarily new systems. That statement sits at the heart of what today's retailing transformation is all about. It's not just about adopting flashy new technology, it's about rethinking how you use the tools already at your fingertips. And it's about focusing on the fundamentals that drive results. We heard that Air Awesome built their success on three foundational pillars of distribution strategy, each one critical, each one enabled by ATPCO. First, we talked channel strategy. The first transformation came when Air Awesome moved from a one-size-fits-all distribution to targeted, channel-aware retailing. They used sales restrictions, or Rule Category 15, to segment content based on GDS, agency ID, or geography. Then they implemented carrier-imposed fees and ticketing fees differentiated by channel to align price with distribution value. This wasn't about complexity, it was about clarity. Offers were finally being delivered with precision, tailored to each partner's role, region, and reach. Second, payment strategy. They shaped commercial outcomes by actively managing form of payment costs and incentives. Using ATPCO's 2024 enhancement for fee calculation at the time of shopping, Air Awesome influenced shopper behavior. again, nudging travelers towards preferred lower cost forms of payment. With these tools, they didn't need to overhaul their pricing systems. They just needed to use existing capabilities in smarter ways. Thirdly, we talked about offer control through NDC and enhanced distribution. NDC wasn't just a checkbox for Air Awesome, it became a strategic lever. They used enhanced distribution to deliver exclusive content through their NDC API, boosting partner engagement. They closed the content gap with route-happy visuals and attributes, enriching both direct and indirect channels with branded fare detail and consistent messaging. And by participating in ATPCO's NDC Solutions design team, they weren't just implementing standards, they were helping to shape them. And finally, we heard about universal connectivity and retailing integrity. Air Awesome leaned into ATPCO's global network model to ensure that their offers, regardless of how or where they were sold, appeared exactly as they intended. From hourly fare updates to full attribute and image propagation, they built a system where retail intent was preserved, even across legacy systems and third-party platforms. This created that critical retailing integrity, the confidence that consumers would see the same product, the same value, no matter where they shopped. In summary, Air Awesome didn't need to rip and replace. They needed to rethink and retool. They used existing ATPCO solutions, some familiar, some newly enhanced, to move toward a modern, consistent, and commercially effective distribution strategy. So whether you're just starting to reimagine distribution for yourself, or you're refining an existing model, the opportunity is the same. You don't need all new systems, you just need smarter use of the right ones. And ATPCO is here to help you get there. Now I'll hand back over to Kathy just to see if we have any questions that we'll take live today.
Thank you, David, for that summary. So we had one and then it went away. So we currently don't have any questions. So I can, unless any last ones come in. Oh, wait, I see one. Here we go. Instead of hourly distribution, is there a plan to change it to real time?
Thank you. Great question. Perhaps I'll take that one. It has long been talked about, real-time distribution. We currently have no plans to do so, but for a couple of reasons, really, that as we, as an industry, move towards the transition to modern airline retailing through offers and orders, there is a lot of value in interoperability in keeping certain things the same. And the view right now is that that is a good place to be, and the hourly distribution that we have. I do think that as we get more towards dynamic offers, be it optimized, adjusted, or continuous offers, that this will be discussed more and more, how we get more timely with getting data out to the market. But for now, no plans. Thank you.
All right. If no more questions come in, I'll go ahead and wrap us up. So thank you, David. Thank you, Shelley, for being here to talk all things distribution. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. If Air Awesome's story feels familiar to you, you are not alone. Distribution is very important. It's a very important part of the offer and order life cycle. And it's also where small changes can unlock massive value. So if you're wanting to learn more about how to get started with any of the distribution tools or solutions that David and Shelley talked about today, know that you have access to all of them through community participation. So I encourage you to reach out to your account manager, or you can drop us a line here in the chat and we will connect with you after the webinar. And this leads me to our next webinar that we're going to be featuring. It'll be about presenting the offer. We will look at all things merchandising and content and how to meet the expectations of the flight shopper from a presentation perspective. So this webinar is scheduled for July 8th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So be sure to register now so it gets on your calendar, and we will also drop the link in the chat for you, and we will be following up via email. So I think that's all for today. Thank you again for everybody for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.